successful businessman invests in his wife's dream cafe, only to discover her affair with a mysterious Serbian man who uses the cafe for money laundering. Betrayed but determined, he exposes the scheme, wins the legal battle, and reclaims his life, leaving her with nothing. I used to think love was enough, that if you gave someone everything, your time, your heart, your trust, they'd never break it. I was wrong. My name is Mark Levinson. I built my company from nothing, grinding 16-hour days, sleeping in my office, living on vending machine coffee and a dream. 10 years later, I was a name in the tech world. Not a giant, but known, respected, and very well off. But none of it meant anything without her. Her name was Alina. Alina was all grace and mystery, the kind of woman who walked into a room and made it fall silent without trying. We met at a charity gala in Prague. She was standing alone by a window, sipping red wine, wrapped in a silk emerald dress that caught the city lights just right. I didn't stand a chance. Within a year, we were married. She had dreams of her own, not the corporate kind, but creative. She spoke often of her love for cafes, not the sterile franchises, but boutique spaces with character, life, soul. A cafe, she used to say, isn't just a place. It's a world you create for others to step into. She wanted to build her own. I wanted to give her the world. So I did. I bought a corner property in the heart of the city. High foot traffic, high rent, but perfect. We renovated it exactly the way she envisioned. Polished wood floors, handcrafted chandeliers, deep green walls lined with old books, and golden-framed mirrors to add warmth. The scent of roasted coffee, cinnamon, and fresh pastries would wrap you like a silk scarf as soon as you stepped inside. We named it Velvet Bloom. It was her domain, her dream come true, funded by me, managed by her. I didn't interfere. I loved watching her in her element, ordering custom teas from Morocco, directing baristas with military precision, laughing with customers. She was alive in that cafe in a way I hadn't seen before. It made me happy. For a while, that was enough. Then he arrived. I first noticed him on a Thursday morning, early spring, the kind where the city still wears winter's chill like a scarf. He sat in the far corner, dressed in a charcoal overcoat, with a leather-bound journal he barely wrote in. His accent was Eastern European, Serbian, I would learn later. His name, or so he told Alina, was Luka. He became a regular, always alone, always watching. At first, I thought nothing of it. He paid in cash, tipped well, and never caused trouble. But I saw the way her eyes lit up when he entered. Subtle, fleeting, but there. Then came the late nights. Alina used to come home by 8. Lately, it became 10, then past midnight. She had excuses, inventory, staffing problems, supply deliveries. She was tired, distracted. Our conversations dried up. Our intimacy evaporated. She clung to her phone like it was oxygen and started stepping out to take calls in whispers. I asked once, just once, if something was wrong. She smiled. That cold kind of smile that doesn't touch the eyes. Don't be paranoid, Mark. It's just work. But I wasn't paranoid. Something had changed, and I was going to find out what. I tried to convince myself it was stress. Maybe she was overwhelmed. Maybe Luka was just a harmless customer. But gut instinct doesn't lie, and mine was screaming. I'm not a jealous man by nature, but I'm thorough, always have been. That's why I built a business that survived the competition, the crashes, and the politics. I don't act without facts, so I gathered them. I hired a private investigator. Discreet, expensive, and recommended by one of my oldest friends in corporate security. His name was Vincent. Gray hair, leather gloves even in summer, and a voice like gravel soaked in bourbon. I'll find out what's going on, he said, flipping through photos of Alina I had provided. But I'll warn you now, truth doesn't come gently. I nodded. Just find it. Over the next few weeks, Vincent sent updates. First, nothing. Luka was indeed Serbian, but his identity was murky. No social media, no tax records, no employment history in the country. He came and went like a ghost. Always at Velvet Bloom. Always when Alina was there. Then came the photographs. The first one showed them standing too close near the back exit. Alina's hand on his arm. Their eyes locked. Another showed them leaving the cafe late, long after closing, slipping into the back seat of a black car with tinted windows. Still, no physical evidence. No kiss. No embrace. But intimacy doesn't need to be physical to be real. I felt sick. I confronted her 2 days later. I couldn't wait anymore. She was brushing her hair in front of the bedroom mirror when I asked, "Who is Luca?" Her hand froze mid-stroke. "A customer." "Is that all?" She turned slowly, her expression unreadable. "What are you implying?" "I'm not implying. I'm asking. You come home at midnight. You whisper into your phone. You lie. I have pictures, Alina." Her face drained of color. She sat on the edge of the bed like her legs could no longer hold her. "Mark, it's complicated." That's when I knew. The betrayal wasn't just a suspicion. It was real. And now it was unfolding in front of me. She didn't admit everything that night. Just enough to crack the mirror of our life. Yes, she was spending time with Luca. Yes, she was confused. She felt like I was distant, too obsessed with work. She claimed Luca understood her. He saw her not as a wife or a project, but as a woman. I couldn't believe the words leaving her mouth. "I gave you everything, Alina," I said, barely containing the fury in my chest. "I built you a dream. You let him walk into it like he owned it." She cried. "I didn't. I slept in the guest room that night. I barely slept at all." That was the point of no return. Vincent kept digging. What he uncovered next changed everything. Luca wasn't just a mysterious lover. He was a con artist. A professional with a trail of shell companies stretching from Belgrade to Berlin. One company in particular, Neva Trade Group, had made recent wire transfers to the Velvet Bloom account. Large ones, masked as business consulting fees. I pulled the financial records, and there it was, my money, funneled through my wife's cafe, moving through shadow accounts connected to offshore banks. It wasn't just a love affair. It was money laundering. I remember sitting alone in my home office, the lights off, the laptop screen casting a pale glow. I stared at the transaction history like it was written in blood. The betrayal wasn't emotional, it was criminal, strategic. They had used me, my trust, my wealth, my name, to build a front for Luca's operation. I should have been broken, but something else woke inside me that night. Something cold, calculated, unforgiving. I didn't confront her again. Not yet. I went to my lawyer instead. "File for divorce," I said, sliding a folder across the desk. "And freeze everything." The petition was filed within 48 hours. My legal team moved fast, aggressive, thorough, and with clear instructions. No mercy. Alina was served the papers on a Wednesday morning, just as she was opening Velvet Bloom. Vincent made sure I got a picture of her expression when the envelope touched her hand. Shock, betrayal, maybe a flash of regret. But I felt nothing. Not anymore. The court proceedings began 2 weeks later. Alina's lawyers claimed the cafe was her separate property, that it had been a gift from me, created solely for her. They argued that since I never worked there, never profited directly from it, it should remain in her name, regardless of the fact that I'd purchased the property, funded the renovations, paid the initial operating costs, and even covered payroll for the first year. Their strategy was clear. Paint me as the emotionally distant husband, desperate to ruin his wife's independence after she found happiness elsewhere. They underestimated me. I had receipts, bank transfers, contractor invoices, my name on the business registration, emails showing my financial involvement in every phase. I wasn't just the money behind Velvet Bloom. I built it, brick by brick. My lead attorney, Harriet Knox, tore their claims apart in court. But it wasn't just about winning property. It was about truth. So I handed over the evidence Vincent had gathered. We submitted files showing financial anomalies, inconsistent bookkeeping, large unexplained deposits, false invoices, all traced back to Luca, or rather to companies he'd created under false names. Companies that were now under investigation in multiple countries. I watched Alina's face as our forensic accountant broke it all down in court. She sat there, stone-faced, while Luca's world of smoke and mirrors crumbled in high definition. She had laundered money through Velvet Bloom. Whether knowingly or out of desperation, it no longer mattered. The law didn't care about motivation, only facts. Then came the subpoenas. We forced Luca into court. He tried to evade naturally, but his arrogance got the better of him. He appeared dressed in a three-piece suit, cool as ice, flashing that smug smile toward the gallery, where Alina sat hollow-eyed. But the moment he took the stand, everything changed. Under oath, pressured by cross-examination, he slipped. It started with minor contradictions. Then came the emails. Then came the offshore account connections. He tried to redirect blame to Alina, claiming she was fully aware of the transfers. She gasped audibly in court. Whether it was real shock or betrayal by her lover, I couldn't tell. Either way, they turned on each other, just like snakes do. By the third week of proceedings, Alina's defense was in tatters. Luca was facing charges in 3 jurisdictions. The prosecution was working with Interpol now, and I was winning, but it didn't feel like victory yet. There was one final blow to deliver. During closing arguments, Harriet revealed a contract. Dated, signed, notarized. It was a business agreement from the café's inception, one Alina had forgotten about, where she acknowledged that the café was a joint marital investment, and all assets derived from it were to be shared equally. I had kept it, quietly, carefully. It was the final nail. The judge ruled in my favor. Not only was Velvet Bloom mine, but so was every asset acquired during our marriage. Alina was left with nothing, no ownership, no alimony, and, once the criminal investigations closed, likely no reputation either. When the verdict was read, she didn't cry. She just sat there, eyes vacant, as if the woman I once loved had evaporated, and only a shell remained. I didn't gloat. I didn't speak to her. I just stood, adjusted my suit jacket, and walked out of that courtroom into the cool autumn air. It was over, at least legally, but the emotional wreckage, that was still smoldering. Velvet Bloom stood empty for a week after the court ruling. I had the locks changed, Alina's things removed. The staff, unaware of the criminal entanglements behind the scenes, received severance pay and personal letters thanking them for their work. I couldn't bring myself to go in right away, not because I missed her, because the place was soaked in lies. When I finally entered, it was quiet, almost too quiet. The espresso machines were polished. The books on the walls were still in place. The chandeliers caught the afternoon light just like they used to, but the soul was gone. Or maybe I had just stopped romanticizing it. I walked to the corner where Luca used to sit. His journal was gone, of course. So were his whispered lies. But the damage remained, like smoke lingering after a fire. The criminal charges against Luca proceeded quickly. With the financial evidence we provided, the state had everything they needed. He was arrested trying to leave the country with a fake passport. Last I heard, he was awaiting extradition to Serbia on unrelated fraud charges. Alina? She vanished from public view. Her bank accounts were frozen. Her name, once whispered with envy in boutique circles, became a punchline in high-end gossip. The media, hungry for scandal, devoured the story of a fallen café queen entangled with Balkan crime. She reached out to me once. A letter, handwritten, no return address. I never meant for any of this to happen. I was lonely. I was stupid. I thought he loved me. I know that doesn't undo the damage, but I needed you to hear it. I read it once, then burned it in my fireplace. Not out of spite, out of necessity. Some ghosts don't deserve a shelf. People often ask if I regret it, the marriage, the café, the years lost. I don't. Regret implies I had a choice in what she became. But I didn't. I only had a choice in how I responded to it. And I responded the only way I knew how, by reclaiming what was mine. My name, my dignity, my future. I eventually sold Velvet Bloom. Not because I needed the money, but because I needed the closure. The building went to a young couple, artists, both of them, who wanted to turn it into a poetry bar. I wished them luck, signed the papers, and never looked back. I didn't date again for a long time. Trust, once shattered, doesn't piece itself back together with apologies and time. It stays in shards. And you learn to walk carefully. I threw myself into work. I traveled. I spoke at conferences. I started investing in small, meaningful ventures, not to fill a void, but to create something honest again. And somewhere along the way, I started sleeping through the night. One evening, almost a year later, I stood by the window of my apartment overlooking the city. The same city where I had built an empire, lost a marriage, and clawed back my sanity. The lights blinked below like tiny stars. For the first time in months, the silence wasn't oppressive. I poured a glass of bourbon and sat down. And I wrote in my journal, "Trust is the most expensive investment a man can make. It's also the most dangerous. But even when it burns, you rise. Not because you forget, but because you remember who you are when no one's watching." And that was the moment I knew I had truly won. Epilogue, Ashes and Echoes. Alina's perspective. They say the worst part of falling isn't the impact. It's the silence after. The moment when the dust settles, and you realize no one is coming to help you stand. I used to believe I was strong, clever, independent, but now I see what I really was. Reckless. I live in a rented apartment above a convenience store. The kind with flickering lights and a leaking faucet. It's a far cry from the life I had, the silk sheets, the imported wine, the curated existence. I can't even afford therapy. So I write. I write letters I never send. Pages upon pages of apology, confession, memory. Some are addressed to Mark, others to myself. The worst part? I still love him. I didn't plan to betray him. Not at first. I loved him for his discipline, his strength, his clarity. But over time, I started to feel like a shadow in his world. A beautiful thing he had framed and placed on the wall of his success. When he bought me Velvet Bloom, I thought he finally saw me, really saw me. But the truth is, he was still in control. The building was in his name. The bank accounts were linked to his lawyers. I smiled, but part of me wilted. That's when Luca arrived. He saw the cracks I tried to hide. He didn't care about money or reputation. He saw me as powerful, necessary, wanted. He made me feel free. And in that freedom, I became careless, willfully blind, desperate. He said the payments were harmless, favors between businessmen. He used words like temporary and untraceable. I knew something was wrong, but I let it happen, because part of me wanted out of Mark's orbit, out of the golden cage, out of the guilt I didn't know I was already drowning in. When Mark confronted me, I broke. Not because he yelled, he didn't. Not because he insulted me, he didn't. He just looked at me like a stranger, like I was someone else. And in that moment I realized I had become someone else. Someone I hated. The court stripped me of everything, rightfully so. But the worst punishment wasn't legal. It wasn't the bankruptcy or the humiliation, or even Luca turning on me to save himself. It was knowing that I destroyed the one man who had ever truly believed in me, and that no apology would ever make him look at me the same way again. Sometimes I pass by Velvet Bloom, or what it used to be. It's a poetry bar now. Bright colors, new people, new memories. They painted over the dark green walls, took down the mirrors, but the bones are still mine. The vision, the warmth. I created something real once, and then I ruined it. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't even expect peace. I just hope that somewhere, in some quiet room, Mark is happy. Not because he moved on, but because he survived me.